Well, we'll go ahead and get started and call this meeting to order. We'd like to excuse Mayor Garrett, who couldn't be with us tonight, and recognize that we have a full council. All council members are present today. We'll begin with an invocation by myself, and then Councilmember Egbert will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our dear, kind Heavenly Father, we are very grateful for the opportunity we have to come together tonight as community members. We are grateful to live where we live and to be able to associate with one another. We're grateful for the rain we've received this spring and ask thee to please continue to bless us with rain and moisture. We ask thee for guidance and inspiration as we discuss matters important to our community tonight. We are grateful for all that we have and we love thee. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we jump into the public forum, we have a ceremonial item, a presentation of Fire Academy graduates, and I'll turn over to our Captain Ryan Smith for that.
Thank you, Council. I know they had some police activity on the freeway, so we might be -2. Hopefully they can make it here in time just for some photographs. But thanks for allowing us this time in front of you tonight for the ceremonial item. Pretty good, exciting night for 7 of these folks. So beginning January of 2025 and finalizing in August, these individuals spent approximately 400 plus hours hands-on and classroom training, and through rigorous physical and written testing, we're able to obtain the distinguished certification of Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, as well as hazmat awareness and operations level certifications in the state of Utah. With that, they came to the department with various EMS certifications between EMT and paramedic. So with these new, well-deserved certifications from the state, they are able to now serve the citizens of Mapleton and the city in a greater capacity, which I think is phenomenal. Also, they did obtain their Wildland Firefighter Type 2, and those were some hours that these guys spent on their own to get these certs. So they're a very good advocate and very good resource that Mapleton City now has at its disposal. So from the start, I think, and anxiously probably till today, these 7 individuals, they had to wear a pretty dull or a boring item. And that item was without question the gear in the fire service that's most coveted or cherished by firefighters, and that is the fireman's helmet. Up until now, they've been pretty mundane, pretty boring. With these new certifications they have obtained through the state, they've now been awarded their firefighter shield that will signify to them and to others that they are certified in the capacities of this job. And it's, like I said, it's something very important, something that these guys have been waiting a while for. It's been an honor to be part of the Mapleton Fire Department, part of the city of Mapleton. One of the duties that has been bestowed on me is to become the lead Fire Academy instructor for the 2025 Academy. And it's fun. It's fun to watch these guys grow. It's fun to learn this profession by teaching. It's fun to watch these guys come from zero experience, zero knowledge of this profession to the firefighters they are today and the firefighters they will continue to be. I want to thank them for your time and your sacrifice. Thank your family members. Being a firefighter is not easy. It's a lot of time away from families. It's missed ball games. It's missed birthdays. You're working holidays. But I will tell you that those things that you miss, those sacrifices that you make, it's a sacrifice that, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. To be able to help your fellow man or your fellow individual on their worst day, it supersedes all sacrifices that you'll ever make. So to all of you, please never stop learning. Be the best at what you do. Continue to serve the citizens of Mapleton with kindness, humility, and respect. And with that, Mapleton Council, I would like to present to you the 2025 Fire Academy graduates. If you guys would stand up, please. Firefighter Ignacio Cano. Firefighter Brian Courtney, unfortunately he hasn't made it yet. Firefighter Eric Fish. Firefighter Ari Jensen. Firefighter Sam Maurer, he's another one of our individuals that unfortunately did not make it. Firefighter Kate Rampton. Last but certainly not least, firefighter Joseph Walker.
We want to thank all of you for your dedication and service to our community and taking care of us and making it a safe place. So thank you. And I
Thank you.
want to especially thank the leadership for all that they do.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yep. I think we want to take a couple pictures.
I love it. You gotta have all of them. Do you want to be, stand up? Camille, do you want us to
Yeah,
awkwardly
then why
move
don't you
to the
guys all stand
side, or
behind
do you
me?
want us to be in the picture?
Yeah, go ahead. Get in the picture. Right.
Be in the picture and less awkward.
Good. 1, 2, 3. Oh, cute little guy in there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we begin the public forum, I'll just note that if your comment is intended to address one of the public hearing items, it would be more appropriate to address the council at that moment and not during the public forum. This time is more intended for topics and comments to be brought up that are not on the agenda. And it's also not intended for this to be a question and answer necessarily. We're very grateful that you're here, and we're grateful for topics that you bring up. So with that, Eddie Abelser, and sorry if I butcher your name. This has never been a strong suit of mine. So. Is Eddie here? Okay, we'll move along to. Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. Brent Hatch. And if you don't mind, please state your name for the record.
Brent Hatch, live on Maple Street. First, the park looks wonderful. Guys did a great job, love it. My backyard faces the park, but that's not why I'm here. I've lived on Maple Street for about 4 years now, and since 300 East to Main Street, it's like a drag race every day. I brought this up, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. With the other mayor, and nothing happened. I know putting speed bumps, people don't like speed bumps, but I checked out Orem, and they had the same issue, and they put up speed bumps that will allow snowplows to go through there. It's not a matter of if, but it's when. We have one of our kids are going to get run over by a car. They're constantly coming from Maple Lakes on their bikes and running across, and it's hard to gauge. Our buses are speeding. I've called them multiple times. I know everyone on our street has called them, and they say the GPS is not working or we don't have it. But I got to petition everyone on our street from 300 East to Main Street. Would love to have, I mean, we're doing work on Maple Street, in the next year or so, but to put in speed bumps to save our kids from getting run over by a car, because they are, the police, if they were here, they'd probably get calls constantly from all of our neighbors because, they're very frustrated. And putting that there would actually police it. They would not need any police. Now, I know they put up a stop sign. That has helped. The sign with the lights on it, people like it because they can race and see how fast they're going. Most people obey it, but you get a lot of people speeding. So I don't know if this is something that you guys could talk over and see if that's something you can allocate to put speed bumps there to slow, because you just have to sit out there for 20 minutes and you'll see cars racing and they're all going 40, 45, 50. The buses are speeding. Also, the other day we had city trucks and a lot of constructions that were speeding that some of the neighbors called on. So this has been an issue. I love Mapleton. I love where I live. I love the park, but man, it's pretty bad on that street.
Thank you, Brent. This has been a topic that we've, it's of course, speeding has been difficult all over the city.
Right.
Not just, sorry, there's something with my mic. Maybe I'll try a different microphone. Is this better? There we go, yeah. We have a traffic calming policy, and so we can review with staff what's been done as far as where we are with that policy for East Maple. And if it's okay with you, we can get back to you at a later date.
Okay. How do I follow up on this? I mean, the last time nothing ever happened.
Chief Hooley's right there.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you. Ken Siemens? In public hearing, okay. Davey Allen? And again, sorry, there's some handwriting I can't read very well. There you go, sorry about that.
Hi, my name's Doug Allen. I'm bringing up the old subject of speeding in our place, so I guess it's all over the town, but the highway down there on 89, from the light on 1600 North coming towards Mapleton, is just like he was talking. It's a drag strip. It's been a problem, and we've talked about it. This is going on 5 months now, and with no resolution to it. And I'm just wondering what we've got to do to get this problem solved. We talked, the last time I was here, we talked to the mayor, and he took my number down, and that said he'd get back to me after he talked to the chief of police, but never heard a word from him, nothing. Nothing's ever been done about it. And gosh, I just hope somebody from your families doesn't get in a wreck down there. I mean, it is a problem. They're either racing, trying to get through the light, or they're racing up the hill to see which one's going to get in the single lane. And it's something we need to address. I think it'd be fairly easy to fix if we could just put a policeman down there for a few days and let people know that's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. You know, it's not a 70 and 80. When John was here, he put that black box down there to record all the speeding and everything. We had people down there doing 90 miles an hour. That's ridiculous. I mean, you just can't be in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. So I'd appreciate it if somebody would take enough initiative to try to get something done down there. Bring it up with the chief and see what he can come up with, and that we'd appreciate it.
I'll get with the mayor when he gets back in town, and I'll have myself and the mayor and Chief Hooley come and visit you at your house. So I'll get in contact with you this week, and we can set up a time to.
Cool. Yeah,
So-
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay.
Then the other issue we had, we've talked about a brake restriction sign down there on that road. All these trucks coming down the hill to that light, putting those Jake brakes on, God, it's annoying down there. And
So I've been working with Rob on that, and we've done some research and a study on it, and that would be a good one we can talk about with you as well when we meet.
good, yeah. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
It was about a month ago that you last came here. right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. So,
And so I know Corey will follow up. Chief Hooley is also out there if you wanted to have a direct conversation with him.
okay, great, I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming. Thank you. Julie Whitaker, I assume also in the public hearing? Okay, yeah, thank you. Amy Sontag?
Hi, my name's Amy Sontag, and I'm one of the advisors for the Mapleton Youth City Council. I'm coming here today to make the entire City Council aware of some of the history of MYCC in the past few years, and especially in the past few months. First, I want to make a few things clear. At the last City Council meeting, there was a group of youth that came and presented, and I just wanted to make it clear that that was 100% on their own. They came, they had come up with a presentation on their own and kind of shared it abroad. Some of us leaders were wondering even whether we should let our own kids put their names on it because we didn't want it to look like it was coming from us. We ultimately decided to let them put their names on because we wanted them to also have a voice. The second thing I want to address is as I listened to some of the responses of the council members, and as I've talked to a few of the council members, it's become clear to me that there is a lack of understanding of the level of commitment and value that the current NYCC has brought to our community. As my graduating senior was filling out a scholarship essays, she counted up the hours that she had served on the NYCC. And over the course of 2 years, she had logged well over 100 hours. That got me curious, so I started looking up the entire Mapleton Youth City Council hours. And in 2024, there was a total of 1,545 hours. In 2025, the youth volunteered a total of 2,429 hours. That doesn't include the documented hours of the advisors, which accounted for about 300 hours for each of those years. And that also doesn't include the undocumented hours of advisor meetings and all the behind the scenes work. At the last city council meeting, there was some council members that expressed gratitude for what NYCC has done, but from some of the council members, it felt like the impact of the program is nothing significant. These youth involved in NYCC are completely the cream of the crop who give a lot to our city. These kids are learning leadership skills that are invaluable. Though many in our city, including some of the members of our city council, don't see and recognize that these kids are what these kids are developing by being part of this great organization, most of the kids on NYCC truly deserve to be recognized and have proved that they are much more eligible for a job or a scholarship because of what they have given and learned in their experiences through NYCC. The third point I want to make, that is in the last 3 years that I've been involved with NYCC, we have had very minimal involvement from the city council, and with very few conversations, even amongst the advisors. There has been very little coordination. The city council has been very hands-off and have left it to NYCC to work with Parks and Recreation to keep NYCC running and NYCC serving the city. In December of this past year, a couple of days before the advisors were meeting to meet to determine which kids would be accepted to be on the NYCC, one of the advisors reached out and said we would be accepting all 76 applicants, regardless of all the conversations we had had and the input that we had received from the youth, that we should keep it at 50 kids. Unfortunately, with a limited time to discuss, we were forced into accepting that fact that we were going to accept everyone. A few of us advisors pushed that if we're going to accept everyone, we have to increase the opportunities for service for these kids. One of those was something that we had already talked about, was increasing the city council involvement and city dealing with city issues. So that was something that we added. Another portion that we added was some additional service activities, purely to accommodate the number of youth serving, as 76 kids was too many to accommodate for the requirements that they're given to be part of NYCC. So in January, a handful of us advisors approached incoming Mayor Garrett and Councilmember Beck and asked that we meet with them so that we could, and what we requested was that we could come up with some bylaws so that didn't happen in the future. We didn't want to be blindsided with the decision to go against protocol and accept too many kids. So we met with Councilmember Beck and Mayor Garrett, and in that meeting, we were told that we as advisors could start talking about some bylaws and work with the youth, and then determine some bylaws, and then present that to the city council for their input and their final approval. We were excited about this. This is going to be great, so we started putting that together. And in all transparency, we shared it with all parties that were interested. 2 weeks later, we were called back to meet together as the advisors, and this time with Mayor Garrett and Councilmember Bott, who was the new liaison. And at that meeting, we were told that the decision had been made to split the NYCC into two groups, a government group and a service group. Interestingly enough, at the meeting that we had had previously, just 2 weeks later, Mayor Garrett had told us, a few of us, after others had left, hey, I've had this idea I haven't really shared with anyone. I kind of think it would be great to split.
Mayor, Council, just real quick, with it being a public forum, we want to make sure we're concerned with timing tonight. So how much more time do you have?
Just a couple more minutes. 2 minutes?
Council, you want to hear more, or should we set up maybe a time where she can come in and meet?
Well, and I know I started out by saying it's not meant to be a question answer in here and answering everything. I understand that there's been some not consistent messaging, and we have been discussing the bylaws. No decision has been made, and I assure you
These
that-
advisors were told that the decision was 100% made, and that was made very clear to us that it was 100% made. We've been given very mixed messages. When it's in public, sometimes they're like, oh, well, it hasn't been made, we're wanting to listen to you. But then in private, the messages that it has been made, we are splitting this regardless of your input.
I don't know if, just to make you feel assured that no decision has been made. We're 100% in the stage of going through the bylaws, discussing internally. We're not all together either as a council, and so we'll be going through this as a separate topic, and we'll for sure be including you and the kids especially. And that's what's really important to me is that the NYCC kids and advisors all feel a part of the process. And I apologize that the process hasn't been exactly positive, but I assure you
It's
that
not.
but I assure you that there's a lot of input that will be gathered, and no decision will be made until we've had these further discussions.
Can I finish saying a few more things? I'll skip the rest of the history.
Skip ahead, yeah.
I'll skip the rest of the history. If any of you are interested, I would love to share it with you. I am asking today that the city council take action. Councilmember Jones at our last meeting suggested that we go through a human-centered design process. That suggestion was kind of ignored, and then this conversation was shut down. And with some very unfair and unprofessional comments that were made about the youth, saying that they didn't know and didn't have as much value to add. What I'm asking today is that the youth be given 100% opportunity to be part of that process, that we put aside that decision to split and go through this human-centered design process, and preferably with someone who has not broken trust with NYCC.
Thank you, Amy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate all you do for the community. Brent Siemens, I'm assuming you also wanted to talk in public hearing. Okay. Brian Whitaker? Same. And Boyd Harder? Public hearing. Perfect, thank you. With that, we will move along to the consent agenda and entertain a motion to answer any questions, comments, or entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 4.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Councilmember Lake and a second by Councilmember Egbert. Jones.
Egbert, yes.
There you go.
Lake, yes.
Yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Great, thank you. And with that, I'll turn the time to Mr. Conroy for the first public hearing item.
Great, thank you, members of the council. So this application involves 56 acres of property. 15 acres is owned by the Allen family, and the 41 acres is owned by Twin Hollow LLC. They're working together on this project. Both properties are currently zoned A2, and the city's Parkway Trail runs through kind of the middle of the project. This is the aerial with the Allen's property to the north and Twin Hollow LLC property to the south. The application is to rezone all of the property to PRC 10 and adopt a new PRC zoning text for the project. They're also requesting to apply a TDR receiving site overlay that would allow for the use of 20 TDRs that would allow them to get up to a maximum of 63 residential lots. They are proposing some open space dedication, primarily the corridor of the trail that's currently owned by Twin Hollow LLC, in addition to some property around that to help create a kind of a visual buffer along the trail. This is the proposed concept plan. If you look back here on the screen, so on this is north, so this is the Twin Hollow subdivision to the north. So the applicant has designed this so that the first 14-plus lots are roughly 1 acre in size to be consistent with what you see in Twin Hollow, or Triple Crown, excuse me. And then as you move west, or excuse me, south, the lots become somewhat smaller in size to be more consistent with what you see in the Mapleton Village and the Mapleton Heights subdivisions that surround that property. Just as a reminder, as you know, rezone applications are legislative in nature. That means you have broad discretion to make whatever decision the council deems best, whether that's to approve, deny, or modify the proposal. We received a pretty extensive amount of correspondence along with this application, both in favor and in opposition. We've included a summary in the staff report. Obviously, you'll hear through the public hearing. They can speak to these issues in more detail. The land use element of the general plan is kind of the master plan or the visioning document to help the city council in reviewing land use decisions. So you should rely on that to help with this decision as you review it this evening. The future land use map designates, kind of splits the property. The north property that's currently owned by the Allens is designated as rural residential, and the southern portion is low-density residential. This is the general plan map that shows that the green area is the rural residential, the purple is the low density, and the yellow is the medium density. You may recall in 2020 when we were updating the general plan that the area that's currently purple, that's Twin Hollow LLC, was originally part of the yellow, so it was intended for higher density. As we went through the general plan process, we were looking particularly at the transition areas that were going from one area to a higher density area, and so that was the reason that the Twin Hollow piece changed from that higher density or medium density to the lower density designation to become more of a more natural transition between lower density to the north and higher density to the south. The base density that would be allowed for the project based on the general plan is 43 lots. This is the general plan that I mentioned that was prior to 2020 that showed this area in a much higher potential for higher density. If that was still in place today, the base density would be closer to 115 lots, so quite a bit more dense if it would have been proposed in the past. We've included in your staff report general plan goals and policies to help guide your decision and to guide your discussion tonight. As you get to the TDR topic, the first thing we look at is the area eligible to apply for a TDR receiving site. And the zoning ordinance indicates that properties in the A2, RA1, or the PRC zone are eligible to apply. So that checks the first box. The next thing you would look at then is how much density can they add. And that is based on how much open space is being provided. If you're providing 15% or less open space, the maximum bonus density you can get is 50%. If you're including more open space than that, the max could be up to 75%. In this case, they qualify for that maximum of 50% density bonus, and so which would equate to 64 lots, and the applicant's proposing just under that at 63. The next issue with the TDR approvals would be for the council to review it and be able to make these findings. And that would be that the project doesn't exceed the density limitations, that it's consistent with the TDR ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, and the general plan, and that it's creating a compatible development with surrounding development. In looking at the compatibility issue, we included this summary that shows that this project really is kind of right in the middle as far as density goes with the surrounding subdivisions. They're more dense to the south and to the west and less dense to the north. Traffic was one of the big concerns that was raised by by people who were concerned with the project, understandably so. The city does not allow more than 30 residential lots with a single access point, and so they couldn't do any more than 30 lots until there are multiple accesses into the site. At full build-out, they'll have 5 connections to the surrounding areas, so that certainly will meet our fire standards. And a traffic study has been prepared. I believe the traffic engineer's here, and they can respond to any questions in more detail with regards to the traffic study. So this is the proposed phasing plan. If you look back here again on the screen, the area in green is what they would be able to do with the first phase. The second phase then could not be constructed until the connection south is made. And so you can kind of see here on the map that would run south and then west out to Highway 89 would be that connection. So the main topics probably for the City Council's discussion tonight is, 1, is it consistent with the general plan? 2, is it an appropriate site for the use of TDRs? And 3, is the PRC text that's being proposed appropriate for the project? With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions of the council if there are any. And save those until after the public hearing as well.
Perfect, thank you. And I understand the applicant would like to speak.
Council and staff, thank you for your time. My name's Mike Klauk. My development partners are Andy Ball, his wife Dovey, and then John Allen and Ann Allen. And so Sean's described in detail our proposed zone change and subdivision, along with the staff's recommendation of approval. As a developer of the proposed Twin Hollow project, I'm here to outline the strategic benefits of this development plan. This project is a result of careful planning by the developer, design professionals, engineers, and the city staff. It has been designed to align perfectly with the Mapleton City General Plan while providing tangible long-term benefits to the community. It's an excellent location for TDR implementation. The key factor in this request is the site's geographic context. The proposed development is already surrounded on 3 sides by existing TDR receiving sites. Designating this property as a TDR receiving site is a logical and natural extension of the city's current land use map. It allows for a consistent development pattern rather than leaving an island of undeveloped land amidst established TDR projects. Sean, can you pull up that TDR map? Not that one, not that one. That one right there. So as you look at this map, the area that we're requesting to be approved tonight is in green. To the left, that is the Allens, as Sean was mentioning, and that's the 15 acres. There's 1,100 feet of 1-acre lots right there. Google says that's almost 2 blocks. The rest of the green is the other portion that's owned by Twin Hollow. And everything in purple is a current TDR receiving site. And so you can see that the whole area is completed. The other thing that I want to point out in this illustration here is that the green portion in the center is the last that is available to be changed or approved. Everything around it has been approved and solidified, and so this is the end of it. And so it's a natural to me for the TDRs, for it to be a TDR receiving site. So Mapleton's general plan, goal number 9, emphasizes the transferable development right program as a vital tool for preserving the city's rural atmosphere. This project acts as a model for that goal. By utilizing the 20 TDR certificates, we are actively participating in the preservation of open space in other sensitive areas of Mapleton, directing growth into a logic-based receiving site where infrastructure is already positioned to handle it. A permanent solution for the Parkway Trail. Perhaps the most significant benefit, public benefit of this rezone is the dedication of 4.8 acres to Mapleton City. Currently, the Parkway Trail exists on this property only through a license agreement, leaving the city's long-term access vulnerable. Our plan secures this corridor permanently for public use. Additionally, we are committing to an HOA-maintained natural space and a new trailhead connection, enhancing the city's recreational infrastructure at no cost to the taxpayer. That trailhead connection is kind of down on the S turn of yeah, right there. And it will connect to that quarter-acre lots in the PD4 zone. Sensitive transition and density. We recognize the importance of maintaining property values and the neighborhood feel of surrounding areas. To ensure a seamless transition, our layout includes 1,100 feet of 1 acre minimum-sized lots extending from the north boundary southward. This buffer acts as a permanent density transition zone, ensuring that the high visibility northern border remains indistinguishable from the Triple Crown character. By mirroring this character at the point of contact, we ensure that the development respects its neighbors while utilizing clustering further south to manage the overall density effectively at a 1.1 unit per acre. I encourage you to study the proposed lot size and compare them to the surrounding existing lot sizes as shown on that lot size plan. So if you'll go back to that, this is difficult to see, so I'll kind of just highlight it. The green again is what we're asking to be approved. To the left of the green is a twin hollow. There's 3 lots that twin hollow we developed 3.5, 4 years-ish ago.
Mike, are you saying to your left? I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
follow our
Yeah,
directions
to
here.
the
your
left on the
okay.
screen. Looker's left, I guess.
Looker's left, I like that.
Okay, so then left of the Twin Hollow 3 lots is the Triple Crown subdivision, and it primarily is 1 acre lots. There are a few 2 acre lots that border the 2 acre zone of Horizon Heights. As you go on the left side again, above the lighter tan color, that is Twin Hollow. And that subdivision, in Twin Hollow, there are 3 lots that are 1 acre or a little above. All the rest of the 55 lots in Twin Hollow are less than 1 acre, down to 0.48, I think is the smallest. Then as we go a little more towards the right, top above the big green square, that's Hidden Hollow, and it is primarily, I don't think there's a lot in there that's over a half an acre, so 0.3 to 0.5-ish. Then Mapleton Village, as we go around to the right side, that subdivision is below a quarter of an acre, but it varies. There are varying size lots in there, but it's going to be a quarter of an acre to a half an acre. And then at the bottom of this slide, where it says Mapleton Heights, there are lots in there that are 0.16, so they're quite small. And so then the purple at the bottom left, that is Horizon Heights, and that's an existing 2 acre subdivision. And so I feel that we've done a really good job of making that transition and to accommodate and complement all of the properties around that. Let's see, so, all right, and then an environmentally conscious design, so the PRC 10. By utilizing the PRC 10 zone rather than the standard grid, we have the flexibility to preserve the natural beauty of the land. Our plan specifically protects the native oak stands on the northeast corner of the site next to the Parkway Trail and transfers ownership of the trail property to the city. This clustering approach prioritizes scenic views and open space over maximum lot coverage, maintaining the rural aesthetics that Mapleton residents value. Density. We are not seeking the maximum density allowed by city code, as Sean mentioned. We currently have 14% open space, which allows for 50% density increase or 64 lots with the use of the TDRs. We are only asking for 63 lots. And then while at 15% open space allocation would entitle us to 75% bonus density, equaling an additional 12 lots. So if we took just a little bit of the open space, I think we're actually like 14.2. If we adjusted a few lots minutely, we could achieve the 15%, and we would be entitled to 12 more lots than we're asking for. But that isn't what we want. I happen to live right there. Our other partners live right there. We border this, and we've designed and developed this to be, pleasing for all of us. Let's see. Okay, so summary of compliance. This proposal fulfills the requirements of Mapleton City Code Section 181210B by serving a clear public purpose and following the general plan to the letter. We have worked hard to ensure this project is a win-win for the city, the neighbors, and the future of the community. A little history, we were scheduled for not the last planning commission, but the planning commission prior to that. And without thinking, I learned a lesson there. We were just in the mode of what's the next step, and we applied, and we started to get a little bit of opposition from some of the neighbors, which are my neighbors. And so we elected to pull it off of that planning commission agenda. We met individually with them and as a group, and probably about half of the people that originally had sent in a letter of opposition retracted that after they understood the subdivision and how we were proposing it. And once they learned that all of Triple Crown and Monte Vista, the way it was approved, it's in the same zone, and they use the same TDRs, to make the 1 acre lots in there. And so as far as the letters that Sean mentioned, I think we're about 75 in favor and 15 opposed. And so what I learned from that is next time, before I just submit and request to have a meeting, I will hold a public, neighborhood meeting and see if I can address some of those things and explain to them the reasons that we're developing it the way we are on purpose. And this is a little bit selfish because my house, as you look at this map, on the bottom left, next to the purple, there's one white square. That's my house. And so it's right on this road. And as you look at the road going back to the right, it would have cost us less. We could have gotten more density had we have just done a straight single road. But you can see that on purpose, I've tried to make that as obnoxious as possible to slow traffic down and keep people wanting to go out to 89. As this area develops, the south end of Mapleton, it's pretty much all approved except this. And when the main road gets completed, most all of the traffic, in my opinion, because from what I've read and been told, people are like water. They'll take the path of least resistance, and they're going to head out to 89. And so I don't anticipate, and I've tried to limit any traffic or as much traffic coming through our subdivision. If you follow those roads, there's nothing that comes straight through. There's zigs and zags and jogs. And so with that said, I just, next time I'll be a little more sensitive to the neighbors around. If you guys have any questions or concerns about the traffic, as Sean mentioned, Matt Hastings, our traffic engineer, is here and will be happy to answer any questions. With that said, I respectfully request your approval of the rezone from A2 to PRC 10 and kindly ask for your support in following the staff's recommendation of approval. At the end of the public comments, I might want to have another say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Just want to echo again, we are grateful for everyone that's here to provide comments and their thoughts on this development. We'll proceed into, or did you have another?
No.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys have any questions for me?
I think we're good.
Just real quick, just ancillary to this topic, I'm thinking back about 20-some-odd years when I learned that Triple Crown was being built. You were the developer of that, were you not?
I was
You weren't
not.
part of that? Okay.
No, I wasn't the developer, but Triple Crown gave me the opportunity to get to my lot.
Oh, that's what it was.
So I'm
Yeah.
right next to it and part of it, but not part of it.
I remember standing on one of those beautiful rural, beautiful hills with probably 4 feet of snow with members of my family sledding when my parents said, yeah, this land's been sold. And we were so disappointed.
Yeah,
So anyway.
yeah, that was probably in John and Ann's backyard.
I was going to, yeah, I think so. Yep.
Good sled hill, it's still there.
It's a great sled hill. Yep.
We've received your letters. I know, speaking for myself and probably most of us, we've read your letters in support and opposed. We've watched the planning commission meeting. Some of us were here at the meeting as well, and so just wanted to let you know that you don't have to repeat everything you've said in the letters, but of course the public hearing is open to you. So I'll invite you to come up and please state your name.
Dear City Council members, my name is Julie Whitaker, and I live at the edge of Triple Crown, and I am the third lot in the Twin Hollow subdivision. The proposed hollow development will sit directly across from my home, impacting my family and my neighbors on Hidden Canyon Drive every single day. From the beginning, this has felt like a David versus Goliath situation. Ward members trying to be heard versus a well-connected developer moving a project forward with momentum that has often felt predetermined. The developer has sent a clear message. Those who oppose opposition should expect resistance and pressure to fall in line. The appearance of the developer's signage less than 24 hours after the Planning Commission's approval only reinforced the perception that this outcome was expected. I would like to focus on two things, process and public safety. First, the process. The March 12th planning meeting was canceled, and following communication from the community development director appeared to favor the applicants. This created an uneven process and limited neighbors' opportunity to participate meaningfully. Additionally, the Allens and Mike Clark approached several neighbors, including myself, asking that we retract our opposition. That kind of interaction undermines public trust and raises serious concerns about whether this process has been fair and impartial. There are also concerns regarding letters of approval. After reviewing the council packet, it appears that some support may come from individuals or parties who stand to benefit financially from this project's approval. I urge the council to carefully consider the credibility and motivation behind those submissions. Second, public safety. The rezoning of this plot of land has been presented as attractive and compliant. On paper, it may meet requirements. Traffic studies may check the necessary boxes, but real conditions in Twin Hollow and surrounding developments tell a different story. Residents have experienced soil instability, sinkholes, and structural concerns affecting both home and infrastructure with limited accountability from this developer. These are ongoing issues, not isolated incidents. Traffic presents an additional concern. The roads serving this area are already narrow, heavily used, and constrained in their ability to support emergency response. I have seen the consequences firsthand, from a residential fire to the 50-acre mountain fire we had last summer. Additional density and construction traffic will increase congestion, delay emergency response times, and elevate the risk of serious accidents. So I ask you directly, is the financial benefit of rezoning this land worth the increased risk to lives, homes, and infrastructure in an area that is already strained? This decision is not simply about whether a proposal meets minimum requirements. It is about whether approving it is responsible. If this location can be developed, there is no clear notification for departing from the existing master plan in a way that increases impact and surrounding residents. Mapleton is a beautiful place. I support reasonable development. I welcome my future neighbors. But without true accountability and transparency from Mr. Clark, this is not progress. This is greed and negligence. I wish the Allens well. I hope that they can retire comfortably. But that success should not come at the expense of the safety and stability of existing residents. This rezoning proposal now rests with you. Concerns have been raised. Evidence has been shared. The question is whether those concerns will be taken seriously or set aside. Please make a decision you are willing to stand by when the consequences are no longer theoretical, but real and borne by the residents you represent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julie.
Hi, I'm Brent Siemens, council and staff. It's good to see old friends. A little history about myself. For those of you that don't know me, I was employed with Mapleton City for 26 and a half years. When I left, I was the engineering division manager, and I spent 25 years with the fire department as well. I've been a resident of Mapleton for 50 years. I've seen many subdivisions come in on used to be a joke in our DRC that we had people come in and say, oh, we duck hunted on those fields, or yeah, I'm that guy now. So the TDR program, I was apprised to when I was at the city, and it was to protect Maple Mountain. It was to protect the bench. And I appreciate the program, and that we've taken the majority of the development off of the bench. And this is a perfect spot for a TDR receiving site. The developers have rights, property owners have rights, and I would say to people that are opposed, because I have seen it many times, if a nationwide builder would come in, which has come in to the direct south of this, they will want the very highest density they can get without any plan for aesthetics or, and the Allens and the other developers could have sold this very easily to, a nationwide builder that, so to say, could take the city to the cleaner because they have those rights up to another 12 lots, straighter roads. There's tons of possibilities there. So I'd urge you to make a conscious decision on what's been proposed, that it meets the standards. Of course, safety is a priority. I hear road width. A fun fact that most people don't know, 800 west between 1200 north and 1600 north is a residential road. It is wider than Main Street is. Mr. Hunter can tell you how much it is to maintain that road. It's 4 times the amount of what this road is, because it's 66 feet wide in a residential area. That was built in the early 90s when wide roads were a thing in Mapleton. It costs more money to plow, it costs more money to maintain. There's a laundry list of reasons why smaller road sizes make sense. And I was a big opponent to that for a long time. But I think there's a good middle ground there. I appreciate your time, and I would hope that you would make a decision based on what has been worked on for many years through recommendations, the TDR program, prior zoning, and the outlook of previous mayor and councils and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
Good evening. My name is Brian Whitaker, and I live across the street from this new proposed subdivision. I'd like to start by thanking you guys for your service and your time that you give to our community. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you. Tonight, and through the planning meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, we heard a gamut of reasons for and against this new subdivision, from traffic concerns to this is their property, they should be allowed to develop it, from safety issues to this is a well-thought-out plan. I just want to bring it back to what's really being voted on tonight, and that is the applicants are requesting you to vote to rezone this property to PRC and a TDR recovery site overlay. And that's it. You're either going to vote to deny their request or to approve it. If you deny their request, contrary to what's been said tonight and in the other meetings, and to our neighbors, you're not denying them the opportunity to move forward and still develop this land. The Allens can still develop their 14 lots, and Mike can still develop his portion to 37 lots. And I hope that they do. I'm not opposed to growth or development. That'd be a total of 51 lots. But apparently that's not enough for this developer, and that's why he's here again tonight. It was less than a year ago, May 21st, 2025, that he discussed with some of you on the city council whether or not you would consider approving a rezone without the required TDRs, or alternatively, whether a cash donation could be accepted in lieu of TDRs. Those of you who were there, thank you for not considering that. However, tonight he's back with a different offer. He's now offering the acreage that the city trail sits on and a few acres of open space for your vote of approval. And in conjunction with that, to take advantage of the exception by donating this percentage of land to be able to increase the density of this subdivision by 50%. So a vote tonight in favor of this request does just that. It allows for a higher density than what the general plan intended. As Mike mentioned a few minutes ago, this city trail, the acreage that it sits on, comes at no cost to the residents. But it may come at no cost financially, but what other costs does it come at? So now some may say that it's only 10 to 12 or 12 to 20 extra lots, but where does it stop? It didn't stop with Hidden Hollow. It didn't stop with Twin Hollow or Mapleton Village, which were expanded in a similar way, adding hundreds of extra lots contrary to the general plan. That is why the general plan was set up years ago, to preserve the city's rural atmosphere, open space, and agricultural character. This is why so many are in opposition. These added lots add to the traffic, safety, and emergency egress and puts a strain on a community that was developed with A2 zoning in place to prevent this. So I ask you to vote to deny this request to keep Mapleton small town and big hearts. As residents of Mapleton, I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to vote, as does every other resident here. Though we're not able to vote on this issue tonight, we all will have the opportunity to vote in the next election and have our voices heard. Again, thank you for your time and your consideration on this impactful issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
My name's Wade Peterson. What a cool thing that we can come together and listen and discuss with our neighbors. My opinion is that this is a clear, logical decision for the reasons that I won't take time to echo, but because of the transition, I think it's a great spot to burn up the TDRs. The transition of lot sizes seems to flow smoothly, and I feel more comfortable with this plan than this has been brought up than with what we could potentially end up with a greedier national style builder. I don't envy your position, but I do think that the city benefits for all those reasons brought up, including with the trail, with the open space, those types of things, and just voice my support for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wade.
Thank you for your time. My name's Boyd Harder. Been a resident of Mapleton since 1963, so a few years. I'm 65, so I was two. Mapleton's changed a lot. You know, we all know that. So I do see that if something is consistent with the plan, the master plan, and the way it's receiving the TDRs, I'm in support of the subdivision, and I do live in Hidden Hollow, right up against the mountain, and Mapleton's an awesome place. I just wanted to, I'm going to be brief. I do believe that it should be approved because it seems to fit the model. So that's pretty much it, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Boyd.
Hi, my name's Kurt Siemens. I haven't lived here quite as long as Boyd, but 1969 is when I came to town. And, you know, we've always welcomed people to our community. And we kind of heard a political assassination of Mr. Clark's character, and I'd like to reframe that a little bit because I find him an upstanding, honest, and open and transparent person. And the public hearing, the meeting we're having tonight, everything's been public, everything's had a chance to be discussed, and everybody's voice can be heard. And we've kind of heard from the here and now people. And it's interesting that people move to Mapleton, and the first thing they do is say, I'm here, love this town, and now I don't want anybody else to build in it. I don't want anybody to change it. I want it to stay exactly the way it is. This plan is a well-thought-out plan. It meets all the criteria, and that's where that development ends. And there's nothing more to change. It's full. And as far as safety concerns, it's all been engineered and designed to specs and standards. It meets all the criteria, and I support this 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt.
My name's John Allen, and I first want to thank you guys for your time. I understand the thankless job this can sometimes be. My father's picture's on the wall over there as a mayor, and I remember coming to a few city council meetings, and I know the stress he went through. I also want to say, if I say Judge or Your Honor, forgive me, I had 39 years as an attorney. This seems like a podium where I'm talking to a judge, so I'll apologize in advance. I live just to the west of the green marks there up on the hill. We're in Horizon Heights. I live in a 2-acre subdivision. When we started thinking, well, that land that you're looking at there, at least my portion, was my driving range for many years. I've hit golf balls off that hill forever, and that's what I wanted it to be. I came in 1999. We built our home. I've been here for 27 years. I started, though, my grandfather, Smuss Allen, owned about 110 acres up here, and as a child, I farmed this land. 12-year-old kid driving a tractor around up in the town of Mapleton. I love Mapleton. It's my heritage. When we built there, I wanted to close everything off. I want to shut this down. No one else can move here. Quickly, I realized that just can't happen. It's not feasible. It's not reasonable. As I started to see all of the developments around us and we become an island, I knew it was probably time to consider something else. I owned half of that property. I bought the other half from my mother and my family, and I tried to decide what it is that I could do. I intentionally approached Mike Clark. I've known Mike, went to school with him. I've known him all my life. He built 2 of my homes. He built my parents' home. He built my aunt and uncle's home, and I trusted him. And I knew that he lived right there. And so I wanted to make sure that I was having somebody who would have my interests at heart as well. And I believe Mike has done an excellent job of doing that. I would love to say I could go back to, I used to hunt in Twin Hollows, and that was my stomping grounds. I'd love to go back and do that again. But that time has come and gone. And Mapleton has grown probably 3 times since I've been here in 1999. And it's going to continue to grow. It's just a matter of how responsibly it does. And I do believe this is a responsible project. I want to finish with saying that I have spoken to each of the individuals bordering the west side of that subdivision up in my neighborhood. And each and every one of them, I believe 4 of them have already written letters to the council. The other one is Mr. Pritchett, who I've spoke to personally, who actually wants to buy some lots from us down there in the subdivision. So I believe they are all in approval of that. Personally, I do not like 2-acre lots. If you come up through Horizon Heights and you look at our lots, 2 acres is unmanageable. I have a field in my front yard, and they tend to develop locations for ATVs and trailers and junk. And I look at Triple Crown, and they are beautifully manicured 1-acre lots. When I looked at what I wanted to do, and if you know the topography, we live up on a hill above that area, I would much rather look down on manicured 1-acre lots than junkyards. For that reason, I hope you will consider this proposal, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Are there any other comments?
My name's John Wilson. I'm one of the junk lots you're talking about. I built a house in Triple Crown on a 2-acre lot bordering the south side of us. And the rest of the lots in that area are 1 acre. I had to put in 5-foot footings because my engineer said that the land could shift or whatever. I know almost all of my neighbors in that Triple Crown subdivision have sunk in different areas. A lot of problems there with the ground. But yeah, my engineer was on top of that, and I'm guessing Mike probably has some good engineers working for him. So I haven't heard about any of his properties sinking, but I have a couple questions about the proposal. One of them is that okay? We have a question. I can ask questions here.
Mm-hmm.
So the proposed divisions as they are right now are zoned as what? Currently?
The whole property is zoned as A2.
A2.
Currently.
And is A2, was it set aside as like a TDR receiving zone originally? Or is it now currently?
That's what we're discussing today, if it's eligible to be a TDR receiving site.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like, what made a TDR site eligible to begin with? What was the eligibility of a TDR receiving site?
The zone itself, right?
Sean-
Correct, Sean?
Pull up a map for you.
Yeah.
I mean, the ordinance basically said any property in these specific zones can apply to be a TDR receiving site.
So an A2 is within one of those zones that can be? Yeah, okay. I just wanted to double check that. And then the other thing that I was thinking about, as it's like kind of, you know, two sides of this story, everybody's talking about it and worried about it, but, you know, something that could potentially be a point of interest is to understand the traffic plan, because from what I can tell just by looking at it, it does look like everything's going to just push to the south. And is that correct? Or is there who's over the, who's over the traffic plan?
Perhaps
Yeah.
we can talk through that traffic, because I think there's some discussion about having the roads on the south be built first. Is that right?
If you'd like to give us your comments or questions, then we can certainly address it as we talk amongst us. Okay. I don't know if you have any more questions that you wanted us to.
Well, that's just a question right there, is that is the plan currently planned in a way that does push traffic to the south, or is there a direction that it would push, the plan currently push the traffic?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, there are 5 connections to surrounding neighborhoods, so the idea is that it will disperse, that people will go different directions depending on destination.
Okay. Well, just by looking at it, it seems to me that if the road was in, people would have a tendency to go to the south out to 16 rather than wind back through Triple Crown and to the north, where there is a lot more turns and different type of jogs. So, you know, maybe that's a reasonable way to work this out, is just get the road in and send people to the south. But I'm in support of it. I feel like it meets the requirements. I think if it was for money and we wanted to like maximize profit, it looks like easy to get the density much higher, as Mike was saying. But I think it's a great plan. I think it's just going to add to what Mapleton already has built. And I'm kind of excited for new neighbors. I grew up in an area where we were just a lot of farmers, rural people, but what our neighbors did wasn't really too much of a concern to us, you know, and we wanted people to kind of keep away from what we were doing. But I know in a tighter community, people are going to be a little bit more concerned. So I feel like, yeah, get the road in, push people to the south, and anyway, I'm in support of it. I think it's going to help build Mapleton in a way that is being built responsibly, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Andy Ball. I'm not as old as some of the dudes getting up here. I've been here for 25 years, and Mike and I started the hollows in 2019. Sample size of what we've done so far, we have 154 lots. Large percentage of those have been built on with, you know, very nice homes, and we've got a couple miles of trails in there. In the open space, there's like 30-something% of the development has open space. People talk about the rural feel. I'm from Idaho, and rural is, you can see it when you fly over it, because there's square miles and there's a house every half mile if it's dense. And this is not rural, but we are maintaining the character by the way we've established the roads kind of following through. And we call it the hollows because there's essentially 3 hollows in the development where we've got the houses and the, you know, so it all flows together, and it's turned out really nice. I'd just like you to put yourselves in the shoes of the thing that went down in Box Elder County on Tuesday. There was 3, I don't know what their name was, but basically council members, and there was like thousands of people in the fair building screaming, interrupting the whole thing. But they voted unanimously in favor of it because it followed all the rules. And so my point is that we've been working on this plan for 3 years. Yeah, we did come in and ask if we could give the city some money, which would be more helpful to the city instead of giving it to some private citizen for the TDRs. We backed off after we had some opposition that we didn't know about. And so far, the pro to con is basically 4 to 1. It's been like 70 something to 16. So there's a lot more people in favor of it than opposed to it. The traffic, when you develop right up to the edge of something, it doesn't have the traffic that it should. What we do with this, in conjunction with the Toll Brothers and Salisbury, is that people, like Mike said, are like water. They're going to go to the point of least resistance. So basically where the green phase is might go that way, but everything else will go towards 89. So I would, even though I'm one of the applicants, would request that you approve this. And if you have any questions traffic-wise, the traffic engineer can answer that.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments? Oh.
Bob Friel from Monte Vista. I really wasn't going to comment, but it seems to be a pretty charged environment here with this. I think a lot of misunderstandings. I don't think I've been to most of the meetings that have been held on this, and I think for most of us, I think we're good friends. I mean, Mike and John, we love you all, okay? We go to the same ward, the same church, and I don't think there's a lot of opposition to most of this project. I guess the part that's concerning, I hear, okay, yeah, there's going to be plenty of roads and we're going to go to the south. We moved into Mapleton about 18 years ago, and when we moved in, we live in Monte Vista. It's a 1-acre lot that had to have the TDRs to have that developed. It's a nice development for the most part, other than some of the things that have been allowed to be put in under false pretenses, but that's another story. The concern I guess I've got is and it's nice to have the trail there. I mean, there's some positives with this thing, but what concerns me is that we've got the lots on the top part there that are down to less than half an acre. And well, they blend in, I think is the way that Mike put it, with the other surrounding properties there. The proposal here is you're changing the zoning to allow this to happen. Okay, that's really what it gets down to allow lots less than 1 acre. Nobody's opposed to a 1-acre lot. That's consistent with the general plan. A half-acre lot, less than a half-acre lot is not, and that's an exception there, and that's, I think, what most people are concerned about. Now, we've had kind of some veiled, I guess it sounds like, threats that, well, if we don't do this, then you're going to turn it over to a developer that's going to come in and put in a lot more. Well, if a developer comes in and puts in a lot more, that's up to you guys because you're the ones who would approve that. Is that not correct? They would have to come through you to allow those variances as well. So I think the biggest objection that most of us have, and there are a number of us that would oppose the project on the fact that we're a little higher development than we would like to see. And that's probably the concern. So we finished this one. We did Twin Hollows, and I don't know who approved Twin Hollows because I think that's far overdeveloped, and those lots should not have been that small. I don't think. I talked to John about that, and he says, yeah, Bob, it looks like the city out there, my window out there, and that whole end of there is not consistent with the general plan or what should have been done. I lived when that went in, and I didn't hear what happened. All of those homes came in. That was an approval that was made by the city council here to put in that high a density. Well, if you do this one, then what you're going to do is you go further north from here. You're going to put in more high-density lots up there and you can kind of destroy the what we moved to Mapleton for, what we all like with the 1 acre lots, and the 1 acres, you know, that's doable. I think, but I think that's the concern that most of us have, and there are a number of people that kind of feel that same way still. So you're voting tonight to make an exception to the zoning law to allow lots less than 1 acre. We can make a little concession or something or other with the trails or whatever else, but I think we're still doing more than that than a lot of us would like to see. And that's the only concern that we have here, and that's what I'd state. So thank you very much. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Bob. If there are no other public comments, we will close the public hearing and open for deliberation. Or Mike, did you want to address right now, or?
Just what I've heard, just for clarification, Bob, and I appreciate you, but the master plan, or the general plan, excuse me, calls for the Allen's 14 lots to be A2, which with TDRs can become 1 acre lots. But the big square, the 40 acres on the general plan, that is clearly designated as 1 acre down to half acre with TDRs. And so we are following the general plan to a T. But other than that, that's all I have, unless you guys have
Hey, Mike,
questions.
will you two questions. Is the intention to continue selling these lots like you have with the other subdivisions to either to owner builders or other builders, right? That's the intention, to maintain the same approach that has been followed, correct? Andy's, same HOA, all of that. Same CCNR, same ACC, all of that, okay? Would you just,
Builders only, so we want custom home
okay, so you've got an
builders.
approved list of builders that follow a certain standard, okay? Would you restate again how many lots in the Twin Hollow approximately are under an acre?
We have 3 lots. Well, there's 55 lots in Twin Hollow, and there are 3 lots that are barely over 1 acre.
So 52 lots are below an acre,
Correct.
okay? And if I'm not mistaken, they're beautiful lots with multi-million-dollar homes on them.
Yep.
I think some maybe are down around the half. I think I've seen a few, yeah.
Some of them are lower, less than a half.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask, with the Oaks, it's 0.71. Will that area will be maintained just by the property owners, not HOA, right?
Yes.
Okay, just,
The goal there was, there's a big, large stand of tall, real old oak trees right along the trail. And we just wanted to preserve that and not let those lots be sold and an owner have different thoughts on that. So we're going to restrict that.
Okay.
Will be owned by the lot owner, though.
Thank you. And then the open space along the trail, the 2 acres, that'd be maintained by the HOA, correct? The open space, there's, I think, around 2 acres along the trail, that'd be maintained by the HOA?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll have a trail on it that comes from that park down to the other trail.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was asking if you guys have gone out and walked on any of our trails. Not selfishly, since I made all the trails. Sean's walked them, he likes them.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, Sean, I was going to ask, with previous developments, you mentioned if they're above 30, they have to have multiple access points. So the other developments, Twin Hollows, Triple Crown, they have multiple access points, right?
Correct.
And was one of them for Twin Hollow through this, is that one of the considered access points?
It is.
Okay.
But Twin Hollow also has 3 other exit points, right? Not through this one.
So long-term, Twin Hollow will extend south to 89, or you can go up through the edge development to 89 that way as well.
And I know this was mentioned in the Planning Commission meeting, but when would that road be expected to be completed, the one on the south that would go through Maple Village?
Yeah, so there's, this phase that you can kind of see on the screen is owned by Toll Brothers. They have approved plans. It's just a matter of when they want to start. Sounds like in our discussions, it's probably likely in the very near future. And as part of that, there's an agreement between Toll Brothers and Salisbury to finish the road to cross the trail from the west to the east. And so we're assuming that'll probably happen this year.
Okay. I know there have been a lot of concerns about traffic and lack of outlets. The final plan would have multiple outlets out of this. I am one of those that a lot of the traffic goes through Triple Crown and into my neighborhood, and so I understand the concerns about traffic. No one wants more traffic in their neighborhood, and I live in one of those junk lots, A2 zoning, and but it's not built for. There's no plan to build sidewalks in those streets, and so I understand that some roads aren't built for collectors, right, and to receive a lot of traffic that way. But I know that there's also some concerns with traffic because currently there's some safety risks in some of the developments for trailers or construction vehicles, piles of dirt and rock, and I don't know if that's if that's more enforcement that we need to do, because I think that's part of the concerns is that when you live in a construction zone, right, there's just a lot of construction equipment, and that's affecting the traffic. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, or if is that up to us to decide on more enforcement and to kind of crack down on some of those things that shouldn't be on the road?
Potentially, yes. I mean, Rob can speak to the traffic topic probably a little bit better. I don't know if you got any comments on that one.
Yeah, I could say it is a constant battle, but we are out there all the time. I mean, we've got 2 stormwater guys that, especially when it comes to materials on the road, I mean, they're out there all the time getting on people's cases, and as soon as they've got one to take it off, right, the neighbor has got a pile down there. So it is, I do want to make sure that everybody knows, it's not because we're not enforcing. We're out there all the time trying to get it off. It's just we've got so much going on that, like I said, as soon as you get one off, then another one's put on as fast as we're taking them off. It's just tough with, I mean, we got a significant amount of construction going on around the city, so.
Yeah.
Okay, you see one
Yeah.
note on that.
Can you come up to the mic?
So we're responsible for our subdivision, and every builder, like I said, has to be approved. Through that approval process, we require the lot owner and each builder that is approved, they sign a builder's code of conduct, and one of the big things that are highlighted, we don't allow dumpsters, trailers, nothing on the roads because they're too small. They need to keep those on their lots. And yes, they will leave them out there, but we're policing that, and we call them and they get them off. But, so we're sensitive to that too.
Appreciate that.
I will say, in my opinion, that is, so, I mean, construction, traffic, pulling dirt on, or mud being tracked on the road and all that stuff, contractors are having a hard time, right? Every time it rains, and dust is an issue, so they're watering down to do that. It gets tracked on the road, and you got to sweep it up, right? That's another thing that people complain about. That's all the time. But when it does come to stuff in the road, it really is. On Twin Hollow, Hidden Hollow, we have significantly less issues than we do in a lot of the other subdivisions around town. Always chasing that. So.
How much more wide will the roads be in this development versus Twin Hollow? I think it was mentioned that these roads will be a little bit wider.
Not than the main road in Twin Hollow, no.
No. Okay.
The main road in Twin Hollow is our major local, 36 feet of pavement. And like most side streets that have been built in the last probably, 10 years, this is 28 feet of pavement on these streets.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on the traffic profiles?
I'm a people pleaser by nature, but I think it's best to close the public hearing and to deliberate amongst ourselves. But you're welcome to talk with Sean or Rob after the meeting for the traffic questions. I'll start by stating that I love that a lot of the letters that were sent in and the comments have to do with the general plan. I know a lot was gone into revising the general plan, and this area is much improved over the previous general plan that had allowed at least 115 lots, and I think a few more because it didn't include the 1 acre lot zone. The general plan went through a very rigid process, and it was a couple months at least, where there was a lot of feedback that was gathered from Mapleton residents all over town. And there were maps on tables where people could draw where they felt higher density could be acceptable. And there's just a lot of interaction, a lot of feedback that was given during that general plan. And I'm not saying the general plan is gospel, but it's what we try to use in our decision making. In the general plan, there's 10 goals, and this was hinted at, and I just wanted to go through a couple of them. 1, preserve and enhance Mapleton's rural atmosphere and agricultural history through careful planning and preservation of open space. This does allow for that. With the clustering, it does help and preserve open space. Also with that, the 4.4 acres of trail, 2.15 acres of open space around the trail, and the 0.71 acre of oak trees. The second goal, continue to focus on large lot, single-family residential uses to help preserve Mapleton's rural character. I spent a lot of time studying this proposal, and so further in the general plan feedback, it was indicated that the preferred lot size by Mapleton residents is between half-acre and 1 acre lots. The average lot size in this proposal is 0.89. And of the 63, I believe 10 are under 0.5 acre, and 2 of those are 0.49, so right around there. I prefer that none of them were half acre, but the focus of this council is on, and the focus of this proposal is on large lots. And the general plan does provide some definitions for rural residential. 1 to 2 acres, low density is half acre to 1 acre, and medium density is third of an acre. And there are very few lots in this development that are a third acre. And so I do see in this proposal that there are many goals of the general plan that are achieved. And one of them being, which I think is a great value to the city, is to allow for TDRs to be used. Just speaking from my few years on city council, that TDRs can cause a lot of headaches, and so I'm interested to find places for TDRs to be used, and I see that as a value to the city.
Go ahead, Jake.
You started, go.
Oh, well. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that, Mayor Pro Tem. We appreciate that. This is an interesting one. One of the things that we're privy to as members of the council is all of the other things that have to be considered, including legislative requirements. So generally, unless you are a legislative junkie at the state level, you might not know what's been happening for the last several years. So I'm going to give a little bit of an education here because it affects the context of my perspective, because I believe legislative overreach is rampant and our ability to sustain our own community priorities is threatened constantly from the legislature mandating or attempting to mandate sub 30-foot roadways, which fortunately did not pass, although 32 passed, right? So the legislature has prescribed to cities how wide their roads can be. The legislature passed a law about how many parking stalls can exist, garage sizes. These are the things that we navigate, not just about what's happening in Mapleton, but we have to pay attention to on the Hill. So when you talk about density, yes, most of us would love to see large lots, with an asterisk, because large means different things to different people. Often when I'm on the Hill talking to legislators about Mapleton, there's a little bit of a chuckle when I say by definition a third acre is high density. When you're considering that, sorry, I move around a lot, thanks Jake. When you're considering that this last legislative session, you have people running bills that would require cities across the state to allow 8 to 10 units per acre across the state, in Park City, in Moab, in Salt Lake City, in Mapleton. So fortunately, that did not pass. However, what we are having to be compliant with, because there is this narrative about a housing crisis, we are mandated to do our part as a city. We do not always have the choice that you think we might have. So for example, is it HB 86 from 2 years ago, the Moderate Income Housing Act, okay? So because we are a city of over 10,000 people, we must comply with the state's moderate income housing plan. We have to choose from a variety of strategies to do so. That can include increasing density. We have to allow that in certain cases. We've submitted our plans and we're compliant. We would have to allow ADUs. In fact, the state has legislated about how cities have to allow internal and external accessory dwelling units. That's no longer our prerogative as a city to do some of those things. Mixed-use development, reducing parking requirements, waiving impact fees for affordable projects, reducing regulations, allowing housing overlays for affordable housing. All of these things are also in what we consider that most citizens don't have, I was going to say the burden to consider, but the reality is a city doesn't have as much authority as it once did. So I want to be clear about that. So when I'm thinking about a project like this, I'm also considering how must our city be compliant with legislative rules that if we violate, we will be penalized as well. That's just a complexity I wanted to add in there, and just as a point of education for citizens. It isn't my overwhelming factor, but the reality is next legislative session, I guarantee that we will see another 200 bills that affect a city's ability to govern itself. This year, it was over 200 out of the 1,016 bills that our legislature considered at the session in 45 days. So we have a complexity that many may not know. It's not just a matter of keeping Mapleton rural. That's not the luxury we actually have. It's not an option. We also have property rights. We have our own ordinances. So that's my pontificating. I like to educate when there's an opportunity because there are layers to this. I invite everyone to watch the legislative session and be helpful to us. Speak to your legislators about what is good and bad because it is affecting Mapleton heavily right now. And every city in the state as we see more come down from the legislature, that's mandates and preemptions. So for this property, my perspective is very similar to the Mayor Pro Tem is that I actually believe it's a very well-designed. It used to be a lot worse, what we would have anticipated in this space as well. However, that's not the factor I'm considering is that it could have been worse. That's not the thing. I genuinely believe this is good for our city as a whole. I believe that this type of development is appropriate for the space. It's contiguous area. I love the rededication to the city for the park trail. I think that's really important, actually, in preserving that for the future. I think the design is well done. I think the traffic studies speak for themselves. Sean, you've addressed this, but I would love to restate about, the 30-to-1 ratio with you literally cannot build the houses until those connections are made, right? Is that ratio correct? So we all know when we live in a construction site, it's obnoxious for a time. And I'm not thrilled in my own area for all of those things. But I believe this is an appropriate use. I believe the benefit for the use of TDRs is great. I was part of the meeting last year when you came to us and gave us some ideas, which was a wonderful discussion. I actually appreciated you coming in advance to say, hey, these are things we're thinking about, and that we had a chance to say no on that and go find your own TDRs. I was there, and the reality is you listened to that and went and did what we asked you to do, is go find your own TDRs, because we didn't want to compromise on that element. So I am supportive of this development. I also think that, yes, I do believe it could have been compliant at a higher density, and I do believe we are obligated to follow the rules, and I believe this is a good use, and I believe it is good for our city as a whole, especially considering the park trail. So I am supportive. That was a long one.
I knew you were going to the legislative topics, that's why I let you go
I
first.
had to go there.
So my viewpoint on this is a great example, I think, of responsible development. If I look at just the Allen's property, 14 acres, zoned A2, has a TDR receiving site to make it 1 acre, and that's what they're doing. Mike and Andy's property, the Twin Hollows, 40 acres, as a zoned 1 acre development, could use 40 TDRs to get it to 80 homes. Understanding that the topography would probably not allow that, and so changing this to a rezone to a PRC application, I think, is a great compromise, using the responsible development to take the Allen's property and take it where it abuts the Twin Hollow, or Triple Crown, and stepping it from 1 acres as it goes further south and goes to half acre, I think is a great stepping, and I'm supportive of that. The road designs to help limit traffic flow, the dedication of the trail to the city, I think, is a great benefit to the city. The additional trails connections to some of the surrounding development, I think, is a great also asset to the community and to the city. I think the development and the developers have done a great job with this proposal. I'm supportive of it as it is submitted.
You going? No?
You can repeat everything that they said, but yeah.
I was just going to a couple more things. I was just pulling up the goals of Mapleton's general plan. Number 3, ensure that land uses are compatible or have adequate buffers, and the larger 1 acre lots are in the first phase and compatible with the surrounding developments, of course. And then we've talked about the transition to half acre and larger down to those smaller 10. So there's another goal that it reaches. Goal 4, provide a range of housing options, and we've talked about the different lot sizes, and we've talked about goal 9 and goal 10. So I see a lot of the goals that were desired by Mapleton residents as being checked off in this development, and so I'm also supportive of this.
20 years ago when I moved here, I live on the west side, on the postage stamp neighborhood on the west side, and when I moved here, I learned about the approval of Harvest Park, how it ripped this town apart because it was high density. And I didn't experience it, but I've heard the urban legends, but I don't think they're urban legends, I think they're true. But I'm grateful that a developer came along with a vision to build and develop that neighborhood so I could live here. I am. And being motivated by money and incentivized by money and profit, you know what? Every single person in this room who has a day job is motivated and incentivized by money. We happen to have a developer who lives in our community, who shows up every day. Who, Mike, you're probably not a perfect guy, but you live in our town. You've so far built a very nice neighborhood. Sure, no neighborhood's perfect. I mean, I got speeders in my neighborhood. My neighborhood's not perfect. This is a very nice and compliant, it complies with the neighboring area. If we want to be upset that this area is being developed, we can go back 25 years when Triple Crown was developed and proposed. That was beautiful rural land, right? You guys remember that? But it's not now. And I appreciate the work that your team has done over the last few years to find the TDRs, to do what does fit within the guidelines of the general plan. it blends very nicely with the neighboring community, so I am in support of it.
With that, I'll make a motion that we approve the rezone of approximate 56 acres of land from A2 to PRC 10 with TDR receiving site overlay, TDR, to adopt the PRC 10 zoning text and review a concept plan for 63 residential lots.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Councilmember Lake and a second by Councilmember Jones.
Lake, yes.
Bott, yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Motion passes, and so we'll proceed to the next item. Is that you also?
Okay,
Sean?
yeah, thank you, members of the council. So this application involves a 3-acre parcel that's also currently zoned A2. It has frontage on Main Street and also frontage on Maple Lakes Drive on the backside, on the east side. The applicant is requesting to combine this parcel with the existing PRC zone that exists for the Maple Lakes subdivision that was approved several years ago. The proposal would be to leave the house on Main Street on a roughly half-acre lot, and then the rear portion would be the remaining 2.3 acres, which would have one additional home and a large recreational lake. The idea for the lake or the pond is that it'll be just recreational in nature. It won't have water ski boats like the adjacent lake does in the development. So this is the aerial of the property. You can see Main Street here on the left and Maple Lakes Drive on the right. The existing zoning where it's A2, some of the properties around it have already been zoned RA1, and including RA1 with a TDR receiving site on the west side. And then this is the proposed concept plan that shows the one additional lot with the pond and the half-acre lot out front on Main Street. The general plan designates it a low-density residential, which, as we've talked about, is typically 1-acre density or half-acre density with TDRs. In this case, they're proposing just 2 lots on 3 acres, so well below the density allowance of the low-density designation. This is the general plan for the area. You can see everything basically west of Maple Lakes Drive and north of 900 South is within that low-density designation. The PRC 5 zone, when it was originally approved, it was approved as Phase 1. They were anticipating that additional lakes, or in this case ponds, might be added to the development in the future, and so that's why it just seemed logical to include this in the PRC 1 zone. There are also safeguards for how the construction of the lake would be handled, and noise limitations, although with no watercraft, there probably would not be the same noise concerns here as there was with the original lake. So this is the area that would now be the PRC 5 zone if this is included, just adding this piece here on the southwest corner of the existing PRC zone. We did receive a request from a neighbor that you received just last night or today. They own the property that's directly to the south of this development, and so their request is that just the council consider extending the road so that they could potentially have access from that in the future. Connectivity is certainly something important in the subdivision ordinance. However, this is a topic that you can leave until the subdivision plan is submitted, as this is just a rezone, but if there's a strong feeling one way or the other, you can express that at this time as well. And this is just a summary of their request, just that the cul-de-sac be extended slightly further to the south. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if there's any of the council.
Is the property to the north approval of that extension of the road?
Of the applicants?
The one to the south, that last minute request to have the extension of the road, are they in communication, and is the applicant approve? Do they approve of that extension of that?
You have to ask the applicant.
So we can invite the applicant to address us.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Brandon Dennison. I represent the property owner here, and want to thank Sean for introducing this topic really, really well. Just want to reiterate what we're proposing here is simply to take the part of the property on Main Street, create a half acre there, and then leave the remaining 2.5 acres for the pond and for a potential future residence. I would also like to know that the pond itself is permitted by right in the A2 zone. And something else to know, from the comments from the Planning Commission meeting, some people were concerned about the water, possibly flooding. It should be noted that the pond itself is actually better for not allowing water onto adjacent property owners. We're not flood irrigating the land. The property is treated with a solvent to not allow seepage, so the water all stays right there in the pond. It should also be noted that the lake itself has never had any issues with leaking. The property owners on the lake have never had any problems with water in their homes. Speaking to the cul-de-sac, we think that the cul-de-sac as proposed here is ideal for this development. We've communicated with Dwayne Madsen. He is the property owner to the east, and he's the one that would take the larger portion of the cul-de-sac, and he is in favor of this version of the cul-de-sac. How it works is, as I'm sure you know, we would bond for our portion, and if and when Dwayne decides to develop his portion, he would construct his portion, and the city would have the money for our side from the bond. So it's really, this version of the cul-de-sac is what we want. It's what is ideal for the area. The Huffacres property fronts Main Street. We're not landlocking them in any way, shape, or form. They can gain access off of Main Street. And it should also be noted that we did receive a letter from a neighbor on Maple Lakes Drive who is concerned about traffic. And if we connect that down and create more homes there, traffic would increase. So for those reasons, we would say that this application as presented is the proper way to go with the cul-de-sac. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
You mentioned the Madsen property, that they are in support of this. I don't know that I saw, did they communicate anything in our packet? I don't know that I saw their, no, that's just been in your conversations with.
Correct.
Okay.
You mentioned that the pond is allowable in a 2-acre zone. If this is changed to a PRC zone, is the pond still allowable?
Yeah, it would be part of the lake's PRC zone.
My question is, why move to the PRC and not just a zone change request? What differences are there, and what advantages are there in us approving it that way?
Yeah, great question. The PRC zone is what allows us to keep that front house on Main Street or to put it onto 1 acre. The PRC allows for a little bit of flexibility in the size of the lots. And like Sean mentioned, we're keeping the density low here. We're just asking to allow that house to be on 1 acre that fronts Main Street. And there are all over in this area that are half-acre lots. The property directly to the north is on a half-acre lot. All but just a couple of the properties on the lake are half-acre lots. Across the street, they're half-acre lots. So it's perfectly appropriate here to have that home on approximately half acres.
Did you want to go to the public hearing on this, or do you want to continue discussion?
Good point. Are there any other questions, or?
I don't have any questions, but
Okay.
I'll comment after we.
Perfect. Seeing as this is a public hearing, thank you, Brendan. Seeing as this is a public hearing, we will open it up for public comments.
My name is Del Huffaker. My mother, Grace, and my father, Mel, own the property just to the south. And I think it's reasonable to ask for that cul-de-sac to be brought down. I think it's like 20 feet is all. To gain access to either one lot right there at the end of the cul-de-sac, or I think we had talked to Sean about a smaller cul-de-sac that would allow, or it might not have been you, maybe it was Dallas, a cul-de-sac that went in just a little bit that would allow other lots to be, and there would only be 3 or 4 lots there, depending on TDR use. So half-acre lots or 1 acre, or even possibly, a larger 2-acre piece. So we just wanted to keep our option open, one that would allow access and less expense to bring a road in. And I don't think 3 or 4 homes would add very much traffic to what exists. And then once that property of Madsen's is developed, I think the Mortensen property that he owns all like 40 acres, I'm sure there's going to be a road for other ways out. We just didn't want to be locked in there. And as Brandon was saying, on Main Street, there is access there. But when they talked about it before they bought this property, we were going to have to give property to the Brophies that owned it before. And also the road that that goes out was too close to the road across the street. There needs to be 250 feet between each exit onto Main Street. And so that would be closer than that 250 feet. So in understanding what we want is we want more access that will enable us to connect to that road. And I don't know what Madsen has to say about that, but we've been friends with him for a long time. We've actually sold him that property, and hopefully he'd be workable with us extending that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question. I'll ask him.
I'm Grace Halfaker, and we've owned that land for 40 years. My husband grew up on a dairy farm, and he always, when he retired from football coaching and high school teaching woodshop welding, we moved here from Tucson, Arizona, and he insisted on buying the acreage. Thank heavens we did, because we could never afford it now. But we bought all that land, and he's farmed it for alfalfa for all these years, providing hay for all the people in our neighborhood that have horses, and we've provided this service. He's going to be 89 here in 2 or 3 months, and our son Dale said, well, maybe we should consider about, what if we ever wanted to develop it, because we were always going to just let our children inherit it. And then when we heard about Dallas with his buying his property there, and this land, this cul-de-sac being put in, first of all, Sean, if you could, is this pulled up where they can see our land?
Yeah, so this is Halfaker's property.
Okay. We own 795 South Main Street, a 130-year-old Victorian house it's our rental house. And the 1 acre on it it's a long rectangle going east. And every renter in there did not want to have to mow a lawn that was an acre big. So we were going to take off the half acre off the east side of the Victorian 2-story house and redesign it with an engineer to move it to the north side so that it would be, that house would have a peach orchard that went with the house. And there wasn't going to be any access to Main Street. Many of our children live here in Mapleton and surrounding cities within 10 minutes away. Many of them grew up here on that farmland, living in a very humble barn for 5 years. And they said it was the happiest time of their life. And the memories they have of their childhood, they're now married in their 30s, and they want their children to have that same experience getting to live in this beautiful little part of Mapleton. None of them wanted access to Main Street. They all said, it's already a nightmare on 900 South with the Indianapolis 500 racing up our street too. We have one of the broadest streets in Mapleton. And because of that, these teenagers get side by side right at Main Street and then floorboarded up the hill. And they do not want another street on Main Street coming in to our property. So that's some other reason we were going to take off the half acre on the east side of our Victorian house and move it over to the north side. It was for safety's sake for our family. And that would make a nice big rectangle, I guess it would be called, on that land. It would have more space for maybe 3 lots or something for some of our children that someday want to live there. So that's why when we found out that Dallas Hakes had purchased the Profi property there, we wanted to find out, are you going to extend the Lake Road or what are you going to do there? And we found out there was going to be a cul-de-sac there. And so that was the answer to our problem, that we don't want Main Street access. That would just be another nightmare. We already have 900 South there. If we had Main Street, that would take away the peacefulness, the safetiness of our children, grandchildren, and that would be riding little tricycles or bicycles or whatever. They don't want Main Street coming in on our land. So that's why we're asking here tonight, fine if you rezone Dallas's property, but please let us extend that Lake Road at least into the corner of our almost 3 acres so that we could have a road access into what we want to have, a family, maybe three lots there. And just for safety's sake, that's all we're asking. We don't want another road from a busy street like we have on 900 South right now. And that's why we're requesting. I know you're just working on a rezone today, but we want you to, I don't know that Dwayne Matson has okayed that cul-de-sac, to tell you the truth. He is a very good friend of ours, and he told me before he left to Europe that he wasn't going to let anybody build anything on his land. So we have a difference of opinion there, and it'd be nice if Dwayne was here tonight that he could speak for himself. But we do want access from the Lake Road. It's right up against, almost to our land, and if you don't allow it to go just a tiny bit farther, like we don't know if it's 20 feet or what it is, just a short distance farther so that we could have a safer street for our family to someday live in. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
I would note on those comments, you know, it's a good thing she mentioned that Dwayne doesn't know when he's going to develop, if ever, because this cul-de-sac would only be built once Dwayne decides if and when he develops. And, you know, as the ordinance says that, you know, it should be a logical development decision, and logically for the access to come off of Main Street, it just seems more logical from that standpoint, because especially because of timing, Dwayne might never develop. It could go decades before that cul-de-sac is even built.
Appreciate it. Were there any other public comments? Seeing as there are none, we'll close the public hearing and open for discussion.
I have a question real quick. So if Dwayne Matson does not okay this, how will a cul-de-sac apply there? Because Unless they put it on the northeast corner of that lot.
Probably wouldn't go
Would
in,
would the city allow a half a cul-de-sac?
John?
We can discuss it.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. Yep. Closing public comment.
Point of clarification here, there is some text modification that is proposed, but fundamentally, we're really looking at the zone change. If we approve a zone change, that doesn't preclude a future extension that comes with the subdivision proposal, right? This is conceptual alone, right?
Correct.
Okay, so in theory, we can vote on a zone change because it has nothing to do with us approving or denying the road itself tonight.
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure we're clear and you're clear that we can say, yes, this is okay, and work with the neighbors and figure it out and come back when you have specificity. Yes?
Yeah, and that's probably what we would recommend at this point. I mean, with the unknowns with Madsen, he may change his mind and say, I want 2 or 3 lots on my, or try to use a TDR, in which case he would be proposing to extend the road. And we don't really know how many lots, if any more than one, Huff Acres could get on theirs. It really probably is would be the wisest to make sure you understand, hey, they have this interest, so that we make sure that we address that interest as the subdivision applications come forward. But by giving it some time, some of this may work itself out. Because I don't believe, my understanding from the applicant is they're not proposing to develop the house on this lot anytime soon. So it would be some time before that cul-de-sac would even be an option. So they, by holding off and just addressing it at the subdivision time, that many of those issues might get worked out.
Okay. And Sean, I was going to ask you, the property directly south, did you say that a TDR had already been applied there?
No, the TDRs were applied across the street. I think that was this is the lot that the Huff Acres owned, that they had requested to rezone, that the council, you remember, denied that, but we rezoned this to the RA1 last year.
So because that whole neighborhood is A2 zoning, I'm interested in a buffer, and so directly north, I'd prefer that they're 1 acre lots that abut that. I know that's not something we're deciding right now, but just for the future. So we're not deciding this right now, but because the whole neighborhood, that your neighborhood is zoned for 2 acres, the preference would be for 1 acre lots next to the 2 acre lots. That we don't have half acre lots next to the 2 acre lots.
There's a RA1 there and a RA1 on the house on Main Street.
Yeah.
And Dallas is wanting a half acre on that house. That's being separated from that 2 acre.
And isn't that purple area also, if I'm orienting it correctly in my mind, those are like half acres now. The homes on them are on half acres, is that
You're
correct?
talking about the west of Main Street?
No, go north, right?
North, and then there's some old lots, I think this
Yeah, go
parcel's
north to the purple that says RA1.
right here.
I think there were some parade homes in there
The
on
next
half
one north,
acres.
Copperhead.
It's up there, okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, and those are issues we'll
Yeah.
Okay.
address.
Sorry, I don't need to bring that up right now, of course, but just,
Defer.
yeah.
I think the bottom line here is we have a very specific applicant that we need to respond to and then work it out with the neighbors. I'm not pro or con this particular road structure. That's not really what we're being asked tonight. But it makes sense to me that you would start this process now. Yeah, it makes
It's a
sense.
great
And we
point,
want to recognize those who've been farming our land and that probably don't want to farm it forever. We get that. Yeah, so.
Just that north piece is zone RA1.
Yeah, to me, it's get the landowners together, do the subdivision proposal when the timing is appropriate. I'm supportive of the zone change as the applicant requested. I'm not making a motion yet.
That's not a motion.
In case there's other discussion.
My point that I want to bring up, Sean, can you go back to the PRC proposal? So I'm with Jessica on, we're looking at just the application for the zone change of PRC. Yes. So right now, we're looking for this yellow dotted area to be rezoned to PRC 5, but the PRC Zone 5 that it connects to isn't, it's a leapfrog, right? We're crossing over two different zones to get to it, to connect to it.
Just crosses this, yeah. So it's connected here.
It is connected there, okay. So, I'm supportive of the application, like I said, as a zone change, but I think, to Jessica's point, we do need to make sure the landowners of the surrounding areas are in communication with the future of this road, this cul-de-sac, the connectivity, the future roads.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I agree with all those statements. I'm for it.
Okay. I'd be glad to make a motion to rezone the 3 acres, to approve the rezone of the 3 acres of land located at 727 South Main from A2 to PRC 5, located at 727, it says 727 twice, and request the amendment to PRC 5 zoning text as originally presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Councilmember Egbert and a second by Councilmember Jones.
Bott, yes.
Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Like, yes.
Just get your people together and figure it out.
With that, we'll go to the last agenda item. Mr. Euler.
All right, thank you. So I've sent you the tentative budget. You've had some time to review the tentative budget. We've had some multiple meetings with the budget committee, and they're very familiar with the details of the budget. So one thing to keep in mind tonight, we're just adopting the tentative budget. So this is just really to get something on the books that we can start discussing. And then once we'll have the tentative budget adopted, which gives us time to discuss any changes needed before we adopt the final budget. So just some overviews of the budget. Our general fund is projected to increase by $618,000. Our water fund is projected to utilize $275,000 of reserves to cover debt service and operations. Part of that expense is also to cover depreciation. So Rob is aware of the use of his reserves, and we're keeping an eye on that, but wouldn't say there's any issues yet at this point, but we're watching that. The sewer fund is budgeted to increase reserves by $205,000 and is planning to use $911,000 of impact fees. Mapleton Fiber is increasing its reserves by $112,000. Though that's optimistic right now, we are still in early stages of bond payments, and all of the bond payments beginning in that department, in that fund. So we still need to continue to have good take rates, and still need to continue to promote our fiber internet. PI is using $344,000 of reserves, $548,000 of impact fee reserves. So that's just a general overview of the funds, and a general overview of our capital projects that I'll go into more detail here shortly. But we are planning to use $1.5 million. We're proposing $1.5 million in building improvements, $880,000 for equipment and vehicles, $10 million for park improvements, $4.7 million of road maintenance projects. So we'll go into each of those and discuss them. The facilities capital outlay include the City Hall remodel, which we've discussed at our retreats and in recent meetings. $1 million for the City Hall remodel. That would be paid for with capital projects reserves. You'll see this $2 million is our projected remaining balance of capital projects reserves. I have that on multiple projects that we'll be discussing. What I mean by that is if all of these projects are approved and if we spend the money as budgeted, our remaining capital project reserves would be $2 million once we've spent all of those projects. The public safety building remodel, that's this building over here, is being proposed to spend $400,000. That would be paid for with impact fees, and if spent, would basically use up our impact fees to do that, which is fine. Impact fees are supposed to be spent. We have a 6-year limit on those, so anytime we can spend our impact fees is a good thing to do.
Bryce, before you leave that, just on those City Hall remodel and public safety remodel, we are in the process right now putting together a schedule, and we'll be bringing that to you for review. That would also include that we'll be looking at Memorial Hall as well as uses for Harvest Park and as part of this topic as well.
Yeah. And then the last facility capital outlay that we have on here is the fire station number 2, so that'd be our south fire station design for that. We're requested to put $100,000 for the design of that building on here, and it would utilize capital project reserves as well.
What conversations have been had on a timeline for that? Unless I was asleep, I don't remember talking about that in previous discussions.
So our last conversation was that the timeline is quite a bit further down the road, and I guess we'd just have to really keep an eye on that. Cora, I don't know if you have more to add to that other than Mayor Garrett asked us to put those funds towards design. I don't know if we're going to be close with the development of that area. I don't know if we'll have the capacity to spend those funds this year. So I think Theron's aware of that, but wanted to have something on the budget to show that we're making progress towards that or looking into that. Corey, do you have any other thoughts with that?
Obviously, the main topic with this one is just putting a design together, and then we would be coming back. We recognize we've got property down there, but the design would at least allow us to see what opportunities we have and what the cost would be for that.
Any other questions with facilities? Okay. The parks capital outlay. We're very familiar with the bike park, very familiar with what's going on down there. Right now, in the budget, it's $5 million. Logan might come back to me and ask for a different amount as we have been receiving grants and contributions. So the bike park budget currently is at $5 million. You can see that we've been awarded $2 million in grants, and developer contributions we have up to $3.5 million. Right now, we're only budgeting $5 million for that, and potentially that $500,000 could be spent somewhere else, could be spent at the bike park. It's kind of got some flexibility there.
Before we leave that one, don't want to steal your thunder, but kudos, we did receive additional $1 million. Logan just got that one on Friday, so he'll talk a bit more on it.
Oh, that's, okay, great.
It's amazing.
$2 million total, right, Logan? So 2.5 grants?
Good job, Logan.
So 2.5. Okay, and those are specifically for the bike park, so those will be spent at the bike park. We have some flexibility with the developer contributions there, so we'll utilize those as we can. Evans Park is budgeted for $4 million. That's kind of the higher end scale of the park, and would be utilizing impact fees to do that. And then Ira Allen
Before you
lighting.
leave that one, too, sorry. Logan, on Evans Park, there was some discussion as far as if we would have lights for that project. Game plan on that?
We would just work through that during design, and it would be one of those things that we'd have to either have a bid alternative for it, depending on what that budget is, just because obviously our impact fee balance is what it is. So we'd make those decisions as we get a little bit further along in design.
Okay. Ira Allen, we discussed this one in the retreat a little bit. When we discussed it, it was very preliminary, and the estimate was quite a bit lower than this, but again, it was quite preliminary. It was just more of a discussion. So we have a much stronger estimate of about $1.2 million of what the lighting at Ira Allen would cost. And of course, we'd be discussing the lighting there and the lighting at Evans, and having those conversations as well.
Did you recall at the retreat, we were thinking around 600,000, so it did double on us.
Yeah, that's a lot higher than
Yeah.
estimate.
Yep. Evans Park is on there twice, so just ignore that.
More money for Logan?
Last 4 million. Good job.
Just snuck that in.
Logan, way to go. Yeah, that is all of your projects, right? Didn't put a place marker there? Okay, yeah. And then streets capital outlay, South Main, we're putting in $1 million right now, utilizing CIP reserves as well. And then East Maple would be paid for with Class C reserves, and that would be 1.1 million. 1200 North would be also paid for with Class C. That would be $670,000. And then street maintenance would be paid for in the road fund, using the road fund fee reserves that we've accumulated there. That's about $2 million that he's planning in road maintenance projects this year. Before we leave capital, any questions on the capital outlay? Okay. This budget includes some personnel items. It's kind of a bigger year for personnel that we're going to discuss, but for our existing personnel, we're asking for a 2% market increase and a 4% merit increase, up to a 4% merit increase. The cost of living this year, the federal cost of living was between 2 to 2.8, 2.5 to 2.8, and then we're asking for 2 so that we can apply a little bit more on the COLA, have a little bit more on the merit side of that. And then in addition to that, we've also got some additional market adjustments for some police officers, catching some police officers up for years of service and different things like there.
Maybe add to that too, we're finding, you're probably seeing this, that as we go out to hire new officers, they're coming in a lot higher than what our minimum rate is showing, and so we're accounting for that as well.
All right, so those would be our changes to existing staff, and then new staffing that's being requested is 7 new full-time positions citywide. It'd be 1 park technician, 1 utility. The park technician would be focused on the trail, on the bike park. That individual would be spending the majority of their time down there, and would be utilized to maintain that new facility that we have. And then 1 utility clerk, 1 accounting clerk, 2 patrol officers, 2 fire engineers. Each of these positions have a really good justification behind them. If we want to go into individual positions, we can. We can also discuss those individually after the meeting in this month. So if you have questions on them individually, we can discuss them. Any questions on personnel topics?
I don't have any questions on that, but because this one is likely to draw some attention to it as a small town with getting 7 new positions, I would just want to note that we have not hired some of these positions for several years. And so we are still playing a little bit catch up. And I just want to say that for the record, that I'm supportive of these positions, as well as the market adjustment for police officers based on all of the data and how we have sacrificed for a few years by not hiring positions.
Appreciate that.
Can I rewind just a little bit? I'm still stuck on that fire station number 2 design. It's
Okay.
not a mountain I'm going to die on. I just have a few follow-up questions. It seems to me that, and I understand, well, at some point we have to make some decisions. We have to understand ballpark cost. You get that? A design for $100,000, help me out here. It seems like there could be a concept drawn up for 10 grand that could get us started on a first step. Correct me, those of you in the construction world, please help me on this. I understand the need just for information, but it
Yeah.
seems like $100,000 is a pretty extensive design, when really all we need is a concept. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Logan, just maybe as an example, you've had the latest facility. What was your concept/design cost come in?
So for the park shop, it was a full CD set, so that's concept plus construction documents, it was about $110,000. Usually industry is 5 to 10% of construction cost. So if you're 5 million, you can expect 250 to 500,000 for design. Jake, I don't know, you might know a little bit more.
And in our talks with the ice rink, I reached out to a full-scale architect to get some pricing, and I just got it back actually this morning. And for a design concept for the ice rink, he was about $15,000 for the full design concept, renderings and everything, and a full-scale package to turn into the city, full-scale CDs. He was at $300,000 with all engineers.
Did you say
So-
15,000? Was your
15,000 for design
That was your first
concept,
number?
for full renderings, floor plans, elevations, and a colored rendering. He was about 15,000.
So if that's it, we could lower that then.
I think you could, just my own personal experience, I think you can come in, I mean, I know you have to budget this, so, I mean, maybe to Leslie's point, maybe we put that at half.
Oh, at the most at half, if that's your industry insight. I mean, there's a lot of conversations that have to happen on this topic. There's no doubt about it. It just seems to me that 100,000 is a lot for an initial concept.
Yeah, we could lower that, and obviously if we look at it and it's coming in higher, we come back to the council and explain why that is, so, yeah.
And I guess another follow-up question, just for my information. When these concepts are done, I mean, I don't know when that conversation was had. So when that is sent out for concept, what concept is given? I mean, who's the one saying these are the things we want you to conceptualize?
Yeah, I think, great questions. I think you're correct. This is probably a conversation, more so, what is it we're trying to accomplish here?
Yes.
More so than the cost of it. What are we trying to do here?
Yes.
And that would be the conversation that you, as a council, you'd want to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before any, I feel like before any, I mean, it's one thing to approve it in the budget, it's another thing to
Yeah.
approve to spend it. I think that would be a top priority conversation to have. Yeah, what are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
And on what timeline?
And this is helpful, this is why we have some time, so let me put together some findings on that, and I can get back to you with it.
That'd be great,
So-
thank you.
This is a perfect example of why this is the tentative budget, right? So that
Great.
we can begin these conversations and get these items in the open so that we can now have these conversations.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so just some items to consider, in addition to what Leslie said. This budget would be increasing the operating budget of the general fund by give or take $500,000 in newly requested positions. Excuse me. So if, as Councilmember Egbert pointed out, these positions, we are in need of staff. We are a growing city. Unfortunately, we're not just a small city anymore. We're growing, and staff has felt those pressures, and we are in need of staff, but at the same time, we have budgetary constraints to consider and things to take into consideration. So $500,000 of year after year new staff to pay for is one thing to consider. We've had significant increases in citywide in staffing with the fire station, with our different departments. Our parks department's increased staffing. We have grown as a city on the staffing side, but we have not supplemented our revenues with that growth of expenditures. We've been very fortunate to continue to have surpluses, continue to have our revenues that have come in strong, and those surpluses have helped us build our reserves. But I've got to point out that with these changes, those surpluses will get a little bit smaller. We'll continue to have those surpluses. They're just not going to build our reserves like they have done in the past. So we've made significant increases in staffing and expenditures without supplementing those expenditures. So at some point, we have to have that conversation of truth and taxation, and at some point, we have to discuss that. Our plan is that we'll have a work session at some point to discuss the future of property taxes. We don't plan on doing any property tax increase requests this fiscal year, but we would like to have that conversation. We'll bring that to you in a work session. And then with that, what is our comfort level for the usage of our reserves? If we're to do all of these capital projects that we're discussing, that would leave approximately $2 million in capital project reserves, so our money for future projects. And that's fine as long as we're understanding of what that means for future requests that are going to be coming.
And keep in mind, that is different than our general fund reserves, so we got two different reserves there. So.
Yeah, general fund reserves still strong. We're not touching that. We're adding to our general fund reserves. That's our rainy day fund, our backup fund to help us operate in the event of revenues just dropping significantly. The usage of capital projects reserves for parks, buildings, those different roads that we're utilizing them for, those would be going down from roughly $6 million to $7 million down to $2 million. Very rough projections, but these are just some concepts to consider as we're discussing the tentative budget.
In our last budget meeting, we had thrown out the idea of perhaps dropping one or two of those projects from the list that was created. But we're waiting on the market information to get the police officers up to the market pay. So we haven't had a budget meeting since then, but I think that might be another topic that we discuss in that.
Yeah, so we haven't been able to meet. I was able to send the budget committee an email today, not giving you tons of time to review that before our meeting today, but the impact that had was minor, I would say.
It was definitely less than I expected.
Same here, yeah.
I don't have an issue. We did mention about that lighting cost is of concern, that 1.2 million for Ira Allen. So to me, it's a matter of what are we going to use it for? What are we going to get out of it? And is the timing right for that now? So I don't have any issue with this tentative budget because it doesn't necessarily imply we absolutely are spending that cost. So there's certainly still something to look into with that. But that was the biggest flag to me of, I don't know that the timing is going to be right for that huge of an expenditure unless we know that we can utilize it to the extent that our community would want us to spend 1.2 million on lighting. So that was my feedback for a specific thing to consider, but other than that, I'm fine to move it along. Did we also need to set the public hearing?
Yeah.
Right, that was the June
Yeah.
3rd? Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure we don't exclude that.
Yep, thank you.
Bryce, I was going to ask about the RAP tax fund. So the 120,000 that's budgeted, that's close to the revenue that came in this previous year?
Yeah, so the revenues that I've budgeted for the tentative budget will change. As we get closer to adopting the final budget, I'm going to be updating those. We've got some revenues that we have better estimates on, and I'll be adding some more revenues. The RAP tax, I'm probably going to be changing that one. So great question. I checked today, we currently have $120,000 year-to-date of RAP tax collected. So we've reached our budget and we'll exceed the budget. And then I'm going to make a projection of what we're going to get next year, and probably going to be closer to the 140s.
Yeah. Then for the items of 59,000 to parks, trails, 55,000 to arts, I know it's a committee that suggests projects. Do they suggest the budget as well, or is this more of just a tentative what we think how it'll go?
Yeah, so
We're not,
yeah, my understanding, Logan, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had their meeting, selected those projects, and those projects are now in the budget being requested. Is that?
Yeah, vaguely. So all of the projects are submitted prior, so October 1st to December 31st is when the grants and the projects were open. We didn't have any external grant recipients. We also don't have a lot of external, things that could be applied to it. So everything that you're seeing is all Mapleton City, Mapleton Parks and Rec requested, and then we met with the committee. The committee then goes through and ranks based off of those submissions, and then makes recommendations, back to us to say, hey, yeah, we like this, or and there was a couple things that they said, hey, we'd prefer not to fund that and fund this more. And that's the whole purpose of that committee.
Great. So these numbers are based on what the committee has recommended. Perfect.
Yes, so
Yep.
Logan, explain, the council needs to approve RAP tax expenditures. This budget is their approval of those expenditures, is that correct?
Correct. Yep. And we're one fiscal cycle behind. So we have a buffer in funds. This last fiscal year, we budgeted revenues, but we did not budget expenditures. And so we'll have a buffer that if things come in higher than what was expected, that there's, a buffer to cover that.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll end this year with about $140,000 fund balance. So it's a good balance to have in your RAP tax.
And the approvals are less than that, right, Logan?
Sorry, one more thing. I'd be happy if you want. I can provide the itemized breakdown, so it's not just lump sum of parks, lump sum of arts, recreation. I can provide the itemized of what was actually recommended for approval, if that's helpful.
It might be interesting to see just this first year of, having those projects approved.
Yeah, I can provide that to Bryce, and we can put that in the budget.
Okay, great.
Any other thoughts, questions before we move forward to adopting the tentative budget? Kind of the process at this point would be adopt the tentative budget tonight, and then as you have questions and concerns or discussions, we can bring them to a work session, or we can have some emails, discussions of if there's items you want to remove, if we decide to take some items out of the budget, we can do that through email or through a work session before the public hearing in June.
and Budget Committee, I think we got you scheduled for May 20th at our next meeting, and we'll hit on those points that you were talking about with a couple of these capital projects.
Great. I'll make a motion to adopt the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026 to 2027, and as part of my motion, do I set the public hearing
Yes. Sorry, let me get back
Sorry,
to
did you have
that.
more slides?
That was perfect, no. Way to go.
No more slides, John.
Yeah, I've got the budget, or I've got the wording on the.
Okay, there you go.
So
Yep.
if you, this is not the proper wording. If you can read the wording as you were setting the public hearing date.
Okay, it's not in there either, but yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt a tentative budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027, and set the public hearing date for June 3rd.
Perfect.
I
For
second.
the certified tax rate.
For the, sorry, what was that?
Is it not spelled out in there?
The tax rate?
Resolution.
It's in the resolution to adopt the tentative budget and move to set a public hearing for June 3rd and to adopt the fiscal year.
That's what, yeah, okay.
Proposed tax rate.
And did you second it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Beck and a second by Councilmember Bott. Beck, yes.
Jones, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Blake, yes.
Bott, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move to administrative reports. Bryce, do you have anything else, or?
Yeah, I'll start if that's all right, since I'm here. Just wanted to follow up with our discussion on the the garbage rates that we had discussed. A refresher on that, we discussed multiple rate structures, and the rate structure that we had talked about was too big of a difference between the first can and the additional can. So just wanted to have a quick discussion of keeping the first can at $14, moving the additional can to $13.50, or putting the first can at $15.25 and the additional can at $11. I would recommend that we do option B, as that gets us closer in price of each can. We can do a variation of these as well if we want to do 14 and 13. But those were kind of the thoughts that I was having, that really it's not the same price to drive 3 feet and pick up that second can. But there is a bit of a price difference there, but it could make sense to bring them a little bit closer, but still have some separation in them. Any thoughts with that?
Well, I'm a one-can household, so I don't want to pay $15 for a can if I can pay 14.
Okay.
I like the 14 and 13, so there is a little bit more of a difference. I don't like option A because, while it says annual surplus, that's going to be like 1 year it's that surplus. We know that rates will continue to increase, and so I think we need to have a better buffer so that this isn't a continuous loss for the city. So I lean towards B-ish.
Same, B.
Well, then you mentioned it's not that much more to go like 3 feet, but we'd also have to realize the tonnage, the waste that we're taking away from that. And so I like B, 14 or 13 if we go that way.
Okay. We will move forward with public hearing on this item. We're going to start messaging. We're putting together a plan for messaging.
We'll email you kind of what our tentative schedule is with that, and kind of hit on all the points Bryce is just discussed. But we certainly want to make sure we get the word out, educate them, help them understand it before we move forward with it, so.
Chief, did you have anything? Nope. Logan?
Just a couple of dates. So this Saturday is opening day. It'll be at 11 a.m. at Ira Allen. So the parade will start at 10 at Maple Grove Middle School, and then come down 8th West and end there at Ira Allen. And then we'll have our opening pitch and kind of opening ceremony, and then get to playing ball. So that's always a fun day. And then Chalk the Walk will be the following Monday at 6 to 8 p.m. And like was mentioned, I think a little bit last year, we did shift and pivot this a little bit to be more aligned with our Get Healthy Utah initiative. We've had a lot of good vendor outreach and should have some fun things that'll be there for the community to participate in on that.
Where are they going to be located? Because I always end up all by myself just drawing on Maple.
Good question. So between 1600 North and 12th North
That's where
is
the stuff gets set up.
Yeah, we're trying to capitalize.
And we love just drawing on our own thing, but there's
For sure.
never any people with us.
Yep, yeah, so part of why we've done that is to capitalize on the parking
Yeah.
next at Hobble Creek
Okay.
Elementary. Now, that being said, and you'll see some messaging coming out later this week on, we are gonna still encourage people, they can go along the trail whenever, and we're gonna try to do a little contest that way where they can submit their artwork. If they're on the very south end of the trail, then that's totally fine. So, yeah, the festivities will be between that, but it's, obviously if people wanna draw wherever. Typically, the shade is where people go. It just depends on the year, right? Which this year is gonna be a little bit hotter, so people could go to the shade. And then work started up on the bike park. I'm happy to provide any updates. Right now, it's just moving dirt, but we're working, and that's good. And then like Corey mentioned, I presented down in Bryce Canyon on Friday, and then received word that we did receive that funding. We should get the contracts hopefully in the next week or two. It was an interesting, I think there was 15 or 16 applications in the regional tier that we applied for. And ours scored one of the higher because of the regional and the size of what the park was. Definitely, the scoring committee is definitely looking at the bigger size of it. There was a lot of funding. I think you'll enjoy, there's a lot of skate park funding and ask out there. But really, the size of the park is, I think, what drew the high scoring from it. So we're excited to be able to get that. And then Pioneer Days, we're still chugging away. Committee's doing a great job. We meet again tomorrow night. The plan is to bring the executive committee on the June 3rd meeting to just do similar to what we had last year, just an introduction and have the Wiscoms, kind of give their message for the year and then answer any questions specifically with Pioneer Days. So that's all I got.
Just one quick one. I'd mentioned, I think previously, that Rick Hansen, our building official, is retiring. Rick has probably done more than any building official in the valley for how much work he's put in over the numerous years he's been with us. We're going to have an open house for him on Wednesday, the 20th, from 3:30 to 5:30. So if we have a council meeting that night, the 20th. So it'd be an easy thing if you wanted to stop in just a little early and see him and congratulate him on his next phase. We have hired Chris Swenson, so Chris has officially been hired. He starts on the 20th. Chris has 30-plus years' experience, much in the private sector as well as the public sector, so he'll be a fantastic addition. We're really lucky to have him, so that's all I got.
Rob?
Okay, well, if you look at the Public Works Yard, you'll see a lot of work going on. They've dug out the foundations for the building addition, or the vehicle bay addition, and for the drying bed expansion. Also, we've had some tree trimming on the streets that are going to be getting different pavement preservation projects going on this summer. The crack sealing, we're doing our own mastic repair and spot repairs. It's ongoing. Crack seal will start later this month, and then more towards the middle of the summer is when we'll have the micro seal, the mill and fill, and the HA5 coming through. So there'll be a lot of roads, a lot of new looking roads this summer.
Thanks, Rob. Jessica?
I'm not going to talk about the legislature anymore, except, no.
It's AI then.
That I'm really excited that today the e-bike and e-motorcycle laws go into effect, and I'm looking forward to supporting our police at enforcing that. That's going to be a big change for all cities statewide. Lots of meetings going on. A group of us were down at the league conference. I've got a league board meeting coming up, so I'll have some more insights coming on that. We do have some movement with talking about a potential skate or wheels park, as you saw from Logan's submission, the consent agenda. So next steps are getting together a group, including Jake, Mayor, Logan, and some of our community advocates and some of our potential partners to brainstorm. We have had some of the neighbors surrounding that property that I've enlisted to solicit feedback from all the people who face it. And so we've got some really good feedback about what they'd like to see already. So we want to make sure that as we get started on the right way. But the intention would be to find external funding for this thing still. So more to come on that, but there's some good energy, and I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll have an initial kind of a brainstorming meeting with some people. So.
Thank you. Jake?
So you guys all got to meet the Work Ethic Foundation group. Logan's done a phenomenal job of reining them in and keeping them on task, and I think they have a lot of excitement and there's a lot of movement for it. So we're excited to see where things can go, and excited to see what the MOU comes back with and move forward with that. Last week we held the community theater held a gala, and we'll be coming before the council next meeting with the donation check for that gala, and the proceeds from that will go 100% to the community theater program. Yes. And we had 4 council members in attendance, and they all got glammed up and got their pictures taken and participated. So thank you for the support.
Thanks, Melanie.
So I'll start with the chamber. So their focus this month, because it's May, is mental health. So next week they're going to have Intermountain Health come and talk about mental health in the business field. Also with that, before I was the nominee for the Utah Suicide Prevention Committee and Coalition, and that is official this month that I am now on that committee. And so there's a lot of information that I'm going to send out to the council and staff on a lot of events that are happening throughout Utah, so that we can bring more mental health focus into our community. With that physical safety, we also want that mental health safety. Also with NYCC, we've been working with the youth mayor and assistant to find a time to meet together and have a group session with the youth to get their comments. At their last meeting, we asked them to go home and think about like the positives and negatives that they like to serve, whether with government side of it or the service side of it. And they're supposed to come back, and we finally found a date for that in May 13th. We're going to meet with them and have a planning session and get their comments. And so I just kind of want to highlight that there's been nothing officially decided with Mapleton Youth City Council. As you've all seen, the emails going back and forth, it's just been getting input back and forth from city council, staff, leaders, before we brought that to the youth. And so we wanted to get that input before we went to the youth and asked for more of their input. And so that is scheduled for the 13th with the youth leadership executive helping to lead that discussion. And the seniors have their lunch next week, and I think that's it.
Thanks, Melanie. I don't have anything.
I saw y'all's pictures about the gala, and my date must have missed the announcement. I didn't get asked to the dance. It's all good. It's all good. Just 2 updates. We have our upcoming meeting with Rocky Mountain Power in about 2 weeks. Our next meeting, the representatives from the MYCC will present to the council on our library experience so that you guys can see the end of the story on that topic. And I look forward to our future discussions regarding some of the changes and the transition here in the city that do affect the library, and what could be possibilities for the library. So I look forward to more of those conversations as a council.
Thanks, Leslie. Kamal? Corey?
Thank you for your efforts and service, and I said, as department heads and for me and Sean, we're seeing how sincere you are as you tackle your assignments, and we certainly appreciate that, and we appreciate your support. So thank you for your help.
Great, thank you. Entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by? Second. Councilmember Egbert. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Has anyone voted no?